So in this video, we are going to be talking about the causes of World War One and how it actually began. Now, the beginning of the 20th century was a time of great military build-up. Germany over here, let me zoom in a little bit. Germany over here was experiencing the greatest military growth that it had ever had, and it was at such an extent that this had come to rival its neighbor Britain. Now, this led to both the nations trying to outdo each other and therefore making allies. Personally, I feel that the entire World War One was based on the rivalry between Britain and Germany waiting to pounce on each other. Now, when you look at causes of the war, any war, but we're going to look at it with the example of World War One. There is an easy way to remember the causes of any war, but especially World War One. So the way I remember it is M-A-N, main. So main basically is an acronym for, firstly, M is for militarism. So militarism is basically huge military build-up and growth, which is exactly what was happening in both Germany, as I mentioned before, and therefore subsequently Britain, where both of them were trying to beat each other and outrun each other in terms of their military. So they, as Germany, let's look at it over here. As Germany increased their military build-up that much, so would UK, and then the further they got, and then it was just basically both of them increasing their military in order to rival each other. The second one is a very important cause, which is alliances. Now let's look at the alliances in the World War and how they formed to understand how alliances play a major role. So when you look at the alliances in World War One, you first have what's known as the Triple Alliance. Now, the Triple Alliance, also known as the Central Powers, were basically you have Germany and Austria. Now, Germany and you have Austria. The way these guys came together, the way they formed an alliance was they formed an alliance in I'm just gonna write that here, in 1879. This was because Austria-Hungary was threatened by its neighbor Russia over here. They felt threatened, and so they came together with Germany, and in 1879 they created what was known as the Dual Alliance. Now Italy over here, Italy, like it says, they joined in the date is actually not right. Ignore that. Italy joined these guys in 1882 because they were concerned about possible war with France. So they were threatened by France, and so they joined, and therefore from the Dual Alliance it became the Triple Alliance, and these guys were known as the Central Powers. Bulgaria later joined and Turkey joined, but that's not really important right now. Basically, these guys promised to assist each other if either of them were attacked. Now, on the other hand, we had our Triple Entente, which was basically France, Great Britain, and Russia. So, as you can see, France was the one that reached out to Russia, as it was threatened from the Triple Alliance. Basically, what had happened was before World War One, there was a Franco-Russian. There was a war against Germany with France, and France lost. So France reached out to Russia, and these guys together they formed what was known as the Franco-Russian Alliance. Now, this was because these guys thought they would attack them, and So these guys thought that they would attack them, and these guys thought that these guys would attack them, so they in turn formed alliances. Now the Franco-Russian alliance was joined by the UK. Like I mentioned before, because of the rivalry between UK and Germany, these guys joined the Franco-Russian alliance, and these guys promised to provide military assistance to each other in case of a war. So you can see how the whole thing was kind of like a cause and consequence, mixed up, jumbled misunderstanding of other powers, trying to launch a war. So it was just this feeling of mutual mistrust is what I would call it. It was mutual mistrust which led to alliances forming. Like they said, an enemy is a friend, right? So that's what was happening over here. The next cause, I, is imperialism. Imperialism is when a nation expands its powers and influence through military conquest or political diplomacy, which is what Britain and Germany and all these superpowers were doing. So it was a competition of who is the greatest nation, in a sense. The last cause is nationalism, which is practically in any war it exists, because there is always a sense of loyalty and devotion to a nation, as there was in each of these individual superpowers, right? So people always wanted to put their nation first, and they had this pride for the nation. Actually, this was what caused the beginning of the World War. It was a mix of nationalism and alliances, majorly, with the background and the base being imperialism and militarism. Coming back to alliances, personally, alliances in theory, these are great, right? They're fabulous. But however, many alliances, they make nations very bold, and it is their actions that cause conflict. So there's this whole scenario of let's take the typical swing set example. Okay, so that this is the drawings are not really good, but let's just say these are two swings, right? And you have Russia playing on a swing, and little Germany, who doesn't like Russia, so Germany comes and pushes him off. And the problem is that Russia has a friend called France, okay? And now France doesn't even like to fight, but because they are friends of Russia, they're honored bound to step in and then fight with Germany. So this kind of creates a full situation, and then Germany has his own set of friends, and so Austria-Hungary comes in. I mean, these are just examples, but Austria-Hungary comes in because of them being friends, and then Austria-Hungary starts fighting with them, and Austria-Hungary starts fighting with them, and it's just this whole mush and mess because everyone has a lot of friends, right? And this is exactly what led to the world going to war in the first place. So let's just clear this little mess that I made over here. Now the reason for the beginning of World War I actually was an assassination. That's why your nationalism aspect of it comes in. There was an Archduke of Austria. Let's do this in another page. So when you look at the immediate cause of the World War, you would say that it's the assassination of Franz Ferdinand. Now this was what's known as the immediate cause of the World War. Main was basically how they came into play due to the assassination of this guy, that you can see how it happened. So he was the Archduke of Austria-Hungary. And so a Serbian nationalist group, it was known as the Black Hand. It's important to remember that these guys were from Serbia, okay? They're a Serbian nationalist group. Again, remember, keyword nationalist group. They believe they were doing this for the nation. These guys managed to kill Archduke Franz Ferdinand. So this guy's dead by these guys. Okay, they assassinated him, and so he died of his wounds, and this assassination was actually in protest to Austria-Hungary having control over their region. Basically, Serbia wanted to take over Bosnia, and Austria-Hungary had control over there. So the assassination of Franz Ferdinand basically led to Austria-Hungary declaring war on Serbia, and when Russia then immediately began to mobilize its army in order to defend its alliance with Serbia, Germany, who was allies with Austria and actually had given Austria a blank check, declared war on Russia, and therefore the expansion of the war began, and then it included all those involved in the mutual defense alliances. So these are your mutual defense alliances initially, but when we look at the same map, actually I have another map over here. What happened was, so the Archduke had gone, right? He was in Bosnia and whatever, he had control over the Archduke of Austria-Hungary, and Serbian nationalists went, and this guy got killed. The moment this happened, Austria-Hungary launches war on Serbia, and then Russia, who was friends with Serbia, mobilized their army, and they said that these guys would help Russia would help Serbia. And then Germany, which was friends with Austria-Hungary, says that Germany and Russia are at war. And then slowly France came in, because obviously they were apart with Russia, and then Italy later came in because they were apart with Germany, and this whole major war, what was later known as World War I, basically began.